Our guest today is Amy Pierce. Amy has a unique business. It's actually a business I have heard about, but she is actually the first person I've ever met that works in this industry. This is really cool. So, Amy, if you would take a few minutes, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do. This is neat.
Okay, well, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say. I own a company called Bank Strategic Solutions, and we go into banks and we either help them through M&A, including conversions and getting everybody on the same software, or we help them a lot with process improvement, efficiency, getting everybody to communicate, work well together, solve for problems, and really help them with their growth path.
To banks. And when you say banks, I know it's like casting a wide net saying car, right? So
Yeah.
why would, well, let's talk about the different categories of banks and why they have the needs that they do.
Well, and you're bringing up a great point. So most of our clients kind of fall into the community bank range, which is still a big range. We typically work with banks that are between 1 billion to 20 billion. And we do work with some banks that are a little smaller than that, but they're focused on growth and they're focused on developing and they have a plan to move forward. And we sometimes work with credit unions as well, and their scale is just a little different depending on what they're looking to do. So large banks usually have a lot of people in place to do all the things that we're talking about. Regular banks, your local community banks, usually are busy trying to take care of customers every day and just help do all their compliance and regulatory issues. So we come in to actually help them with those other steps that they don't have time for.
Okay. All right. So now we get to the best part. How in the world do you ever get into a field like that? Where did that come from?
A long career in banking.
Okay.
I spent 25 years in banking, worked in mostly lending, commercial lending, and managed a team, spent some time in executive suites, and just it's funny, I actually started out years ago. I left a bank for a little while and worked for GMAC. And what I really loved was that I got to fix it and kind of shape it from the ground up. And that really was a trigger for me. And it's something I've always enjoyed in banking. I see things the way they've always been done and try to figure out a different way to get the same process, but better.
Hmm.
So I think after all that time, I just got a little tired of some limitations inside organizations, and it's much easier sometimes to affect change from the outside. So that was what really got me started, was a springboard.
Okay. Have you, like, back when, let's just say when you were like in high school or college, did you ever envision that entrepreneurship would be your thing? Where did
No,
that seed plant?
I was going to say no, but I guess that's not true. So I worked for veterinarians all through high school and college. And I started out my own pet sitting business back a long, long time ago. But I did not take care of one-off pets. I took care of parrots and people that have like 5 or 6 parrots, and it's very intensive how you take care of them. And took care of a kennel of huskies that they actually raced and sled raced. I'm from upstate New York, so we were in a lot of snow. So I just enjoyed doing that, and I just decided to do that full time for the first couple of years out of college before I went to get a real job.
Okay. All right. I can't let this go. Parrots. Yeah.
Parrots. I love African grays, macaws. Macaws are so much fun. They're just fascinating because they are like a 2-year-old for life. They will test you. They will try to cause trouble. They will see if you're paid attention. And they learn from you and they learn to speak from you. So they're a lot of fun and a lot of challenge. I like challenges.
Evidently, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. Usually I don't get knocked on my heels very often. You got me on the pair. I didn't see that one coming. So so this entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of times things kind of plant and we don't realize they've been planted. When you move through, let's kind of go out of college and you're working in the corporate world. Was entrepreneurship always in the back of your mind? What was it that kind of made that seed grow?
I think it wasn't necessarily, but I really liked working in my career in banking. I loved working with business owners. And especially in real estate, because I loved watching buildings come up. I would be the first one on the ground on Fridays when you do inspections.
Mm.
The poor subs don't know what to think when this woman pulls up in a suit and gets out and puts on her work boots and walks through the mud to go see where we're at on projects. I just really love seeing something come to fruition and help be a part of building it. And I just enjoyed that part and learned so much from the entrepreneurs that I worked with that were small business owners.
Let's talk a little bit about that. You're in the corporate world and you're doing your thing and things are working out for you. You're growing, careers moving down the road. Tell me a little bit about that process of, I think I'm going to do something different. Where did that talk about that?
Um, so I had worked in a few banks and I felt a little bit like I call it, I was a little bored, which is not a nice thing to say. I wasn't as challenged as I like to be.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I had a great job opportunity managing another team, doing things I'd done before, but it just wasn't real exciting to me. Or I thought, well, I could take a total risk on myself and step out on my own and see if I can't do this from the outside, because I really like some of the consultants I worked with inside the banks. And at the same time, I did have a little health thing. And I remember calling my dad, who had worked for an auto industry all his life, and said, I'm thinking about turning down this really good job with really good benefits, stock options, and all this stuff, and working for myself. And I think the real reason I called him is I expected him to say, don't do it, because he was a union worker. And he paused and goes, well, you're what, in your 40s? I'm like, yes, thank you. He goes, if you don't do it now, when are you ever going to do it?
Mm.
And
Wow.
I hung up and I was like, well, crap.
Now I got to do it.
I had to do it. But doing what I do, I really do enjoy it. I love working. I think one of the biggest things that I enjoy from an entrepreneur standpoint is just, it's about people at the end of the
Mm.
day. Every interaction that I go into in a bank and how you get people to understand where you're coming from and why you're suggesting that you try it this way or that you try something new instead of the way we've always done it.
Mhm.
Uh, it's about people and getting them to see it and see the light bulb come on. That's where it really comes from.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna nibble on this just a little bit. I promise I'm not gonna stay down this path very long. I remember when I decided to go and open my first business, and I was 31, I think, at the time. Um, I remember as excited and confident as I was, there was not a whole lot of sleep leading up to those days. So when you're gonna pull the trigger, like I'm gonna do this, kind of talk through that journey. What was that like for you?
Um, there was a lot of sleepless nights. Did I think this through? Did I do it right? How long will my savings last before I have to dip into something else? I guess my fallback was always, well, I know I could go get a job lending if I really
Mhm.
had to again. I just don't really want to. So that gave me a little bit of comfort
Mhm.
too. What's the worst case scenario? My husband and I joke about, are you going to end up under the bridge, homeless, without any resources? Or, could I go do something in between if I had to?
Mhm.
I could. I wanted to bet on myself and it's
Mhm.
been fun. There's definitely, you worry about things more. And I'd worked for entrepreneurial veterinarians back when I was a kid too, and learning,
Mhm.
the challenges of a small business. And then you see it. I remember one person said to me, you're never going to feel the same way about my business that I do. And I think that's very true. And you remember that as you have staff, they are great people, but they're not going to worry about everything the way you're going to worry about it being a business
Mhm.
owner.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was in the probably first 3 years, I know, it may have been closer to five. The I remember just reflecting one day, one afternoon, I was at the back porch of my house, and I remember going, just contemplating that everybody connected to my business is making a bunch of money but me. I'm like, I need to make more money than the people working for me. And that was, to me, that was a pivotal moment that I hadn't quite figured it out yet. I was making it, but I hadn't figured it out. So when you when you open the business up, talk about that process of building it up, and of course we never are completely confident we've made it, but there's a hurdle, there's a pothole that you have to go around, and once you get past that, then you learn how to navigate better. Talk about that process for you. How'd you do that?
And I'd say it's still a growing pain as you get through it, but switching from solopreneur into, having a couple of people and how that looks has really evolved the thinking. Moving from being the primary person that brings in revenue to having others help bring in revenue, and just like, okay, I need that. Really, a big part of that was being involved in some peer groups for entrepreneurs. That is good. I was involved in a group. They're fantastic people. We are all just now starting to split off after a number of years together. It's more because of time and constraints than it is anything else. But having that peer group, they have challenged me. We've all had blood, sweat, and tears together. A lot of alcohol.
Yes, it's funny how that always comes in.
Yeah, but they have really, that team, it's kind of a joke with them. I was like, I hated that meeting. You guys tore me apart. It was exactly what I needed to hear to get me off of high center. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge owning your own business, is you need to have somebody there, a walk alongside. Whereas if you're an employee, you've already got a peer. That's really hard. And I would recommend to anybody, peer groups are critical. Good mentors are worth their weight in gold. I sat down with a mentor of mine this morning, and I love her dearly, and she's great. I love having multiple mentors. Peer groups are vital.
Yeah, every podcast that I do, I always ask about mentors. So I'm glad you brought that up. And you the way you led into it was basically from an accountability standpoint into mentorship. And that is, for me, I had people that were mentors and they knew it. And then there were some that just had to figure it out that they were my mentors, because I kept calling them and asking them or meeting with them. So talk about that journey for you on how, once you're in entrepreneurship and you're growing, what does mentorship mean?
I think it's, who is that person that you trust, that you can really share some challenges with, and you trust their guidance, and that they're willing to be really honest with you too on those things where we all have our own blinders on. So those people that you can trust to go, hey, are you really doing the right thing or not? Because of my real estate background, early on in my journey, I had a friend come to me and say, hey, why don't you help us put together this for real estate? Or why don't you help us do that? And so I went to a mentor that was a friend of mine that actually I used to work with. And I said, how do you know when it's a path you should go down and it's just different from what you thought you were originally going to do? And how do you know when it's a diversion? And he gave me some of the best advice, and I still look at it this way today. He said, how much does one client make you? And is it repeatable? So kind of thought through that and said something. He goes, how much does this one deal make you? And is it a one-off and then you're going to have to go do something else again? Very true. So if it's repeatable business, that's always been kind of my guiding stone. Is it repeatable business? Are we making a plan? Are we doing something that's going to be longer lasting, or is it just a one-off? But I don't think to this day he really understands how much just that. And he sat there for a minute and went, I don't know. And let me think about that. And then that came off the cuff for him because of all his experience. He has no idea what an impact that still makes for me today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when you're having a conversation and you use the word trust, and I'm going to bite on that one. Right. So when you have a trusting relationship, and there's a combination of connection, competency, and compassion, all those, when they all kind of mesh together, it creates an openness, or a mind-storming event where you can kind of think freely. And I have those moments sometimes, and well, I probably shouldn't say it on a podcast, but in the shower, especially in the wintertime, when it's hot and I just got that hot water just coming down over me, and it just, for about 3 minutes, I don't think about anything and my mind is free, and I get these flashes like, ooh, I just had an idea, that mind storm. And I have found with mentors, for some reason, they have a knack for giving this epiphany of, if you will, and it's just them talking off the cuff. And that's the magic with mentorship for me.
Absolutely. And that was something else that came out of our accountability groups. One of the things I've been really challenged on is how much time are you now spending on what you want to do for your own big picture, which is funny when you're a consultant, that what you do is go into banks and help them with their strategic plan and facilitating and all of those things to go,
Yeah.
yeah, mine's out of date. I need to like spend some time on my own plan. So that's one thing I've really been challenged to do this year. And I've tried to actively carve out time every other week where it's nothing but where are we going? What do I need to do to fill that in? And that's been a big change item for me too this year.
Yeah, you had mentioned, and I think it may have been before we actually went live on the podcast, you were talking about communication. So,
Yeah.
so let's, it's part of what I do in my day job is I do disc, and that's, my communication, and
Yep.
I love communicating. I love disc. I love discussion around trust. And for me, when I'm looking at communication, it always takes place on the listener's terms. Right. So it's always taking place on the listener's terms. So I think of it as if you and I were dropped off in the middle of China, right? Just because we speak English louder and slower doesn't mean we're going to get food, water, and shelter,
Right.
right? We're going to learn a little bit of Chinese, or things are going to go south for us. So when you're dealing with your clients and you're trying to build the business and you're trying to help them, what is the process that you go with the clients to try to, you see it clearly, they can't see it. How do you make, how does that work for you?
That's what's so funny. I think you've got to see it from where what their circle of reference really is. I'm working with a great CLO right now, and he runs the credit team for a bank. He is super smart, very, very wise, very analytical. However, sometimes there's a challenge there on seeing the bigger picture. So the whole, whether it's an analogy, like guys are good about sports analogies. So sometimes I have to try to put on a sports analogy that makes sense. But coming from where they understand and from their frame of reference and how this improves their life and their day to day is usually my landing spot. So, hey guys, this is how this will improve your life. At the same time, this other thing that's happening, I use the term unintended consequences a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of banks and a lot of people inside an organization will make a decision and it's really good for their team. And that's wonderful. However, the team that has to come behind that group, it has a whole bunch of unintended consequences for. So we really talk about communication and getting everybody in the room. The players have got to be in the room. We can't have unilateral decision making. And we've got to communicate with each other why. And there's some organizations that we go into that are very contentious. And one of the bigger parts for our team is, okay, I hear where you're coming from. I hear where you're coming from. So if I put you guys together, this is the best of both worlds. Do you guys see that? Or leading them through what it takes to get there. So I liken it sometimes too. It's like parenting. I have 4 kids. It's like parenting the 4 kids, and one of them, everybody's mad, and you're figuring out the truth is somewhere between them all. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not just that one hit the other because the other one took something else. There's more to the story with children. Well, in business, it's the same. I'm upset that he's doing that, but I'm not sure if that he's doing it to affect me or if he's just doing something, doesn't realize it. So
Right.
communication's key in all of this.
Yeah. So when you're focused on the next phase, right? We all are, as our business grows, we get comfortable. We get in these comfort zones, and it's, business is like a tree. If it's not growing, it's dying. So as you move through that journey with your business, looking forward to the future and navigating through that process, what is that? How do you think forward about that process? What does that look like?
So I feel like we're a little bit in evolution right now. We're kind of at that next plateau that we're trying to grow again. And we are adding really good qualified people to our team. We've got some really good executive bankers that have been in the industry and they've retired out and they want to do some work and they can go in and do such good work for some of our banks. So we're leveraging them. At the same time, we are bringing some internal infrastructure to place. We are been leveraging some software like project management software. I decided I didn't like something, so we've kind of grown a little bit of our own. So everybody can see where everybody is on projects. And we've actually added some people that I would have thought of adding a couple of years ago. We actually have a great new intern, and she's a data scientist. She's finishing her master's degree in data science. She is only 22. She has challenged me in some ways. Like when she told me my career is longer than she's been alive.
Ouch.
She's so precious that you couldn't help but laugh when she said it.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, oh, okay.
Thank you, I guess.
Yeah. At the same time, she's been very entertaining, very good with data, and for us to educate our customers too on, okay, this is how you manage your data. This data integrity is such key part of a bank anyway. So how you keep that positive, how you have good data integrity, and how you manage those holes and how you get information out of it. It's been, I would never have thought we would have hired somebody for that a couple of years ago. So we're looking at where are ways we can add scale and where are ways we can really dive in and make something out of the data that we're getting. And I at this point, I'm like, data analysts should be on every organization's team. It's amazing what they can get to. Since she is 22, and half the time that it would take some of us older people to do.
Right.
So she can pull queries for me in about 5 minutes. It would take me many more hours to do.
Right.
But I want to see the data. So it's that's something that I think we've added to our team. And then we've added some great people that are in the middle point of their career, and they're just not that different from where I was. They wanted to do something more. They like the challenge too. I like people that like a challenge. My problem is you don't want a room full of challengers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
When I have conversation with business owners, one of the common thing is, if you imagine yourself being in, so you and I both are in Arkansas, and if we went to, I don't know, say Montana, right? And we just happen to be at a restaurant in Montana and we see somebody else wearing an Arkansas Razorback hat. We're like, oh, hey, my people, right? And so you recognize that. And I think that that's what I'm hearing you say, that people are recognizing you by who you are and how your business operates the because of help me out. What is it that
hopefully
there's
it's some enjoyment on the things that we get to do and where we get
yeah.
to, I always talk about leaving the organization that we visit better than we found it. And that's such a big value to me. But another big value to me is we are not, we don't value clock watching in our organization. We are not micromanagers. I have people that I can trust to go do a good job. And one of our people just called, school starting back. Hey, I've got first day of school. I'm probably not going to be on today. I really appreciate the phone call, but I know you're getting your work done. I heard nothing but glowing reports. We're good. And that was really important to me too. When I was raising my kids are all older now, but when I was raising my kids, there's moments you have to be able to get out and go do whatever. And I want our team to be flexible. I want us to do a good job, but flexibility and the ability to make those choices and know your work's still going to get done is a big part of what we value in our organization. Honesty, empathy, and making sure that we're flexible for our team and making it a positive workplace is really important to me.
Yeah. Core values. Yeah. That's what I'm hearing. Core values. Yeah. Well, I appreciate this has been fantastic. So one last question, and I promise you this is not me throwing a curveball at you. I promise.
Okay.
If you could go back to your younger self, knowing where you are today, would you do or say anything any different about how to get down that path?
I think I would challenge myself to listen more, and just learn more from the mentors in the room. And I still do that. There's some amazing people, and I have to challenge myself. Okay, do I need to really speak, or do I need to just listen? So that's probably the biggest thing I still try to keep in mind when I'm working with people.
Yeah. Yeah. They gave us 2 ears and one mouth, right? Yeah. Something I need to learn sometimes. And my wife always reminds me of this. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the podcast today. This has been a great conversation. So if people, I know you don't deal with the public, but if there's somebody out there that's listening that just happens to be in the banking industry and they're curious about what you do, how would they best find out about your company or you? How to find you?
I appreciate that. Our website's real easy. It's www.bankstrategic.com. And there's ways they can reach out through there. I'm always on LinkedIn, and just feel free to reach out and learn more about us.
All right. Well, great. Thank you, Amy. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.